Welcome to the Caregivers Coaching Corner. I'm Dementia Coach Diane, and I'm sharing my journey as I care for my husband, Ben, who's living at home with Lewy body dementia. Here's where we talk about the real live issues concerned with caregiving and self-care, because both really matter. But let's face it, often we're thinking much more about our loved ones, and one of the things that we can't get away from thinking about are issues involving elimination events or toileting issues. So I recently shared a video based on a case study that was offered to me by one of our followers about what to do if our loved ones forget how to use both toilet paper and a wet wipe to finish cleaning up. And something as simple as that can end up really frustrating our loved ones because, believe it or not, there's a lot more steps involved with the whole elimination process than you realize. So what we want to do is stay attuned to those early signs of frustration. So what I want to share in this first video is how to recognize those early signs of frustration. And then in the follow-up video, what we can do about it. What are some soothing techniques to help? So let's again take that example of trying to help our loved one with using both toilet paper and a flushable wet wipe. If they're starting to get frustrated, we want to step in before things escalate. One thing that I noticed, for instance, with Ben is that he would start to shift in place or start to pace, and his pacing would pick up. In fact, sometimes he'd avoid the bathroom altogether as he was, I think, getting more and more confused about the whole process. So we want to look for, restlessness or fidgeting, and then we want to just pause in the process and offer some reassurance like, hey, no rush. We've got time. Let's just take our time. And a lot of times they respond, to that peaceful and calm tone of voice. Sometimes they can, huff or have some really heavy sighing, and this can indicate that they're feeling overwhelmed. So we want to acknowledge their feelings without necessarily adding any pressure, saying something as simple as, yes, this can be frustrating. Let's just take a minute. So something that simple can just help to calm them down. Sometimes I noticed with Ben when he was just beginning to show signs of dementia and he was getting confused about processes that seemed very simple, he'd repeat his question or comment. He'd ask the same thing multiple times. So it might mean that they are stuck in a loop of confusion. So we just want to calmly answer them and then redirect them. So, if he's asking about, sometimes Ben would ask about something like totally seemingly irrelevant to what we were doing. So I would say, yep, I've got that covered. No worries. And, let's try this instead. So I would just reassure him about whatever it was that was on his mind, which quite honestly, I wasn't always sure, but I reassured him and then redirected him to what we were doing. You also really want to keep an eye on their facial tension because, just a furrowed brow can tell you a lot, or a clenched jaw, or just tight lips. Once again, that can signal growing frustration. And, I've learned to be a real detective with Ben because he can always express what's going on with him. So I really do have to watch his body language. And sometimes I use a little humor at that point, to break the tension. Like, wow, you look like you're plotting revenge on that toilet paper. Let's take a breather. So anything to just lighten it up because I know I can take things so seriously. So the humor helps me, it helps Ben. Also, now this isn't, Ben doesn't do this quite as much, but certainly sometimes our loved ones will have a verbal outburst or a really sharp response. And, if they get really snappy or short, it's often, once again, a sign that they're overwhelmed. And it's really, really important that we don't take things personally, but rather just reassure them. So we want to stay calm. We want to soften the moment. Whatever it is you're trying to help them with, maybe just say something like, I know this is tough. Let's make it easy. And try to back up, reduce the number of steps, break the task down into smaller steps for them. There are any number of ways that we can help our loved ones calm down. But the first thing to do is to recognize those growing signs of frustration. And once again, I know this can be difficult, especially because as a caregiver, we're trying to get a lot done in a short period of time. And when our loved ones can't process the way they used to, I know it felt for me like Ben was taking about 1,000 times longer for everything. And yet, at the end of the day, as I just realized that the only thing that really matters is that we're both safe, and that I'm being as loving and kind as possible. And that gets you a long way. So stay tuned for those signs of frustration. Take a deep breath. See if you can tune in to what it is that's confusing them. Make it a little easier for them. And just take things one step at a time. Thank you. I hope that helps. In the next video, I'll share some more techniques that I've found can really help to soothe our loved ones when they do start to get upset or frustrated. And if this is helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Share your own tips in the comments. Together we're stronger. Together we got this.